Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of LTC Heroes Live by Experience Care. Today, as my guest, I have Kathryn Kindopp with me, the administrator at Maplewood Nursing Home. Hi, Kathryn. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So, we always start the show by doing a little bit of an icebreaker, getting to know you and how you started working in long term care. So, tell us a little bit about your LTC initiation story.
Okay, gosh, that starts a really long time ago. I started working, well, I actually started volunteering in a long term care facility up in Saskatchewan in Canada, where I'm from. And from there, I had some really amazing experiences that made me realize working with the elders is really my thing. So I went into physical therapy and started working mostly in long term care, a little bit in hospitals. But over the years, I've always gravitated back to long term care. And back in 1995, I was recruited here to this particular nursing home to be the physical therapy director. I did that for a dozen years. And then we really weren't having anyone in our top leadership position. We'd had some turnover at the administrator level. And I had someone kind of approach me, and I approached them at the same time and thought, well, maybe it could be in my future. And so I ended up doing all the requisite training and got my administrator's license. And I've now been administrator here at Maplewood of Cheshire County since December of 2007. But I've been here at
Wow.
Maplewood since 1995.
That's awesome. That's so interesting. Tell me one of your favorite memories that you've had in long-term care.
So, favorite memories. Oh, I had one and I just lost it. Right before the show, you asked me that same question. Do you remember I mentioned something and it just
Oh, yes, I remember we talked about it. You mentioned that you found your birth mother.
Oh my goodness, that was the story. Right. I thought we were, going to
That's
talk
an
about that from
amazing
the start.
story. I'm
Okay.
so glad you brought that up.
Yes. Okay. So when I was the volunteer in that first long term care facility, I've always known I'm adopted. And I was taking a psychology class at the same time as I was doing this volunteer work. And the psychology class, I was doing a self training program on dementia. This one day I went in to do my volunteer work, and they'd forgotten to call me because the program got canceled. And I said, well, listen, while I'm here, do you have any training materials on dementia? And they said, of course we do. And they brought me to this closet, which was a walk in closet, quite large, and said, I'm not sure exactly where you might start, but why don't you take a look and see if you find any videos? And it was back in the days of VHS, those big VHS
Hmm.
videos.
Yes.
This was the most bizarre thing. I walked in and I happened to just look to my right at eye level, and the first two videos I noticed had the name Dr. Martha Donnelly. And I said, oh my goodness, I think this is my mother. And the person with me was a little confused because that's not my last name. I said, no, 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 I'm adopted. I've always known what my birth mother's name was, and that she was studying to be a doctor. And lo and behold, I take the video, and she was a geriatric psychiatrist. She was in that nursing home doing a training on dementia. And here I just happened to go into that one closet that one day. And I saw her, and that's in the video. We look like twins. There's no doubting who she was at that moment. And that's how I found my birth mother. And that really
That's
propelled me
amazing.
to stay in long term care, because I realized I not only did I feel I had a calling for it earlier, but I felt like, wow,
Definitely a
it's my
connection.
blood.
Yeah, and definitely a connection with her. That's an amazing story. I love that. So, Kathryn, let's talk a little bit about Maplewood Nursing Home. So, tell us a little bit about your facility, what services you guys offer, and why is your facility so unique, and why have you been there for since 2007?
Sure. So Maplewood of Cheshire County, we are a county-owned and operated facility. Since the inception of the counties, we've actually been around. So when this area was being populated back in the 17 and 1800s, the notion of county caring for its vulnerable elders was a concept, right? So This particular area, we actually had a farm that was donated towards caring for the elders. And over the years, it transformed into different iterations. At one point in time, we were a small little hospital. That was in the early 1900s. And by 1959, we got licensed as a long-term care facility. So we've been in continuous operation for a couple hundred years. Where I'm at right now in this particular building, the original building was built in 1978. And then we did an addition to add assisted living. So in 1997, we added 20 apartments of assisted living to our 150 bed nursing home. And then actually just last year, we finished a huge addition and renovation project so that the whole nursing home, the 1978 building, is completely redone, just like the brand new addition that we've added. So we went from 150 beds where we only had 6 single rooms. The other rooms were all doubles, and 4 people shared a bathroom between them, to 70% of our rooms are single with their own European style shower, which is like a toilet, shower, sink right in that room, and 30% doubles. And those do share the same kind of European style shower, sink, toilet environment. So much more single rooms, which during the pandemic has been such a blessing. We're so pleased.
For sure. Yeah, I can definitely see that. And I remember when we first talked about your facility, you kept mentioning, oh, it's very family oriented. So could you please explain to us what it means to be in a facility which the culture is a family oriented one?
It is family from the moment you walk into the facility. And we mean family in all senses of the meaning. So for example, today is our Pride Day. We're wearing our t-shirts. So our t-shirts actually say, I'll just come up for just a moment. It says Maplewood of Cheshire County, your home, your family.
Your family.
So what we mean by that is when you walk in, you become part of our family. Literally, we may have family members from grandchildren who work here to parents, grandparents, and elders who are our residents. But we also become like family to one another. We do have some residents that don't have any family, and we become like their family. But even just to our coworkers, we have a very tight-knit group, which is kind of why we have the mantra that it's your home, it's your family. You've chosen to come here. The residents have chosen to live here, and the staff have chosen to come and work here.
That's a beautiful way of saying it. A big united family. I love that. That's really nice. So the next question, I remember when we first met, and I first saw you and we started talking about this interview. You, the first thing you told me is, why would you interview me? You were so humble and so surprised that I was interested in your story. And so this question is actually for you to take your humble hat off and tell us something that you're really proud of, something that you've done in your career that maybe nobody else knows, or something that you don't mention every day, but something that really inside of you makes you proud of working for this industry and the professional you are today.
So what comes to mind is the story of when we finished the huge addition. So just to backtrack, the original nursing home is a 75,000 square foot building. We did a 62,000 square foot addition. We finished that in February of 2020. And we planned for, prepared for, and completed 118 resident moves in 36 hours, because we had to take the 75,000 square foot building and take half of the residents out of it, put them into the 62,000 square foot building that was new, but then take the original half of that 75,000 square foot building to get it gutted and completely renovated. And when you're in construction, every day is costly. So we couldn't afford to lose the time of our folks that were doing all the construction project for us. So that's why we had to accomplish such a huge move so that the construction workers could continue to work and wouldn't lose a beat, if you will. And we're so thankful this happened right before the pandemic was declared. Because if you can imagine having so many people trying to moves happen. Our residents said that was the best entertainment they'd had in months. They just loved
Look at that.
it. But it was all choreographed and it was all hands on deck. But I was just so proud of the whole staff. Like, we just asked so much of them to focus and plan for and accomplish, because a resident move in a room, that's a huge ordeal. Like, that's their personal space, and we have got to take care of so many items and then move it to the next room and personalize it again. And we had to do that 118 times in 36 hours. So I was so proud of our team for accomplishing that. If they complained about it, I didn't hear it. They just dug deep and they worked hard, and so huge accomplishment.
So actually, it's a great transition into the topic that I want to go now, which is your leadership style. I'm curious, if I were to ask your team, how's Kathryn as a leader? How's Kathryn as a boss? What do you think they would say?
A long time ago, they would have said something else, but I think they see that humility in me, but they also know I'll make the decisions when I have to, if it's a tough decision. And I would tell you that I'm the reluctant leader. And what I mean by that is, I don't always believe I'm the best, smartest, most knowledgeable person in a given room when I'm with all my department heads or any other staff people. I want to know who has the best knowledge and who's going to take the lead in that moment. And if nobody does, I'll step up to the plate. But I'd like to just have someone else come in, or I'll call on someone if I know that they've got the knowledge, but maybe they're a little shy. I want them to take that lead. And so that, we all come together. It's not just autocratic. It's really, it's a team-oriented management style. And I think I would hope my team sees it that way, but I guess you'd have to ask them.
But I see you talking about it. I definitely see what you're saying, and it really you gave that feeling very well. So I'm pretty sure that's what they think. And also, we talked a little bit about bringing younger generations into long-term care. What do you think is there isn't a right or wrong way, but what would be a good way to motivate them and empower them to join this industry?
I think that when anyone chooses to come and work in long-term care, you're coming into a community and you're going to learn work ethic from a community base. So whether you come in and you start off in a kitchen environment, in laundry, housekeeping, or as a ward aide on the resident units, which isn't a licensed position, but assists in making sure everything is operating smoothly, what you would learn is all the important issues of time and attendance. There is so much training that is mandated for long-term care that you get a lot of education and you get a sense of what you might actually like. So we've seen folks who've ended up being chefs. They started with us and they've branched out and they've left us, but they're running huge restaurants. Or my director of nursing, she is amazing. She started as an LNA. She came to us the same year I started in 1995. She worked the 11 to 7, and then she came in and she became the OT aide. From there, she went on to get trained as an RN. She became a floor RN, and then she became an MDS nurse. Then we promoted her to the assistant director of nursing. And then approximately 4 years ago, she was promoted to the director of nursing. I've been here since 1995. She is by far and away, in my opinion, our strongest director of nursing. She knows the operations from the ground up, from every shift, from a therapy perspective. And so the notion of someone coming into a long-term care facility, even if it's not the right fit for you in the long run, there's so much you can learn, or you can grow within. And the director of nursing is really second in command to the administrator. Yeah. She came in as an LNA. She is now the director of nursing. She's so amazing, impressive, strong leader, great skills. She's got a great team that works for her and her nurse management team. And so
it's definitely an industry where you can grow a lot, and there's a lot of opportunities for work there. So it makes total sense. So, Kathryn, as we wrap up this interview today, let's do some rapid fire questions. So, I have 3 questions for you. Try to answer them as short and fast as possible. So, let's start. You ready?
Okay.
Okay. So, the first one, do you have a favorite failure?
So going back to what my team might say about me, I think they would have said I was a micromanager way back because I'm such a perfectionist. And over the years, one of the things that I've learned from them is if I get too focused, they have this little joke where they take a spatula and they hang it outside my door. And what that tells me is it gives me that feedback. Okay, maybe I need to take a breath. Maybe I'm being a little too focused. But it all started off with this joke of being a micromanager, which that's completely not who I want to be at all. So there we go.
I love that. I love that little story. It shows how close you are to your team. I love that. So, if you could give any piece of advice to a driven college student about to go into the real world, what would it be?
I would say have some fun. Don't take life so seriously. I wish I would tell myself that a few years ago myself, but
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I wish someone would have told me that a couple of years ago. So, and the last one, if you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, what would it say and why?
I would say love your local long-term care facility because we do so much for the community and we're more than just what the bad press out there sensationalizes, the horrible stories. We are so much more than that. We give so much love and care both to our residents and our staff, to anyone that walks through the door. And we really need to be recognized in a positive light. So I'd love to see the billboard talking about loving your local long-term care facility. Come volunteer for us. Send your kids to work for us. Come work for us if you've got some thoughts that you might be able to help us. We'd love to have you come and work for us.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think there is a very negative perception of long-term care, and even me before working in long-term in LTC Heroes and interviewing so many people from the industry, that's really how I realized, wow, this industry is really it's amazing. What the people here are so loving and caring, and it's just incredible. So I completely agree with your billboard. Yeah, and thank you so much, Kathryn, for joining us today. It was a pleasure to have you on the show, and thank you.
Thank
Have a
you
nice
so
day.
much. I appreciate this opportunity. Okay.
Bye. Thank you.